Hi, my name's Atreyu. I am part of Group 7 and this is our Design of Experiments project. And so for the experiment we tested parachutes, so we tested the measure the fall time of different parachutes to determine the most optimal parachute combination that allows for the slowest fall time. And why we chose the experiment was the most cost effective since we couldn't do paper airplanes, which was really cost effective since it's just paper. This one is just plastic bags, string, and some batteries. And it was very easy to measure the dependent variable, which was the duration the parachutes in the sky. So it was an easy experiment to conduct, and it was very cost effective. And so we had two factors, which was the radius of the parachutes and the weight of the payload. And our levels, our low level was 9 centimeters and the high was 13 centimeters, so the radius. And for the weight of the payload, our low was 11 grams and the high was 24 grams. The 24 grams is just a AA battery and the 11 grams is just a AAA battery. For our response variable, we had the durations in seconds taken for the parachutes to land. So we let go of the parachutes and then we start the timer, and then when it hits the ground, then we stop the timer, and that's the duration. And then so for our procedures, we basically took just a plastic bag, and then we cut four circles, so two that had a radius of 9 centimeters and another two that had a radius of 13 centimeters. And then we cut 8 holes evenly around the plastic circle, the plastic bag, and then that was already cut, and then we put string through those holes, tied a knot in them, and then just taped them down so that they were really secure in the plastic. And then we just tied a knot at the end. And then continuing on the procedures, we did a AA battery on the large parachute, which gave us our plus, and then we did a AAA battery on the large parachute, which gave us our plus minus, a AA on the small parachute, and that gave us our minus plus, and then a AAA battery on the small parachute, and that gave us our minus minus. And we actually have a video of how we made the parachute. That's how you make a parachute. And then we just went on a high place, so just the ramada of my house, and then we dropped the parachute. So there was enough. You want enough height for the parachute to fall, so you know if there's you can see if there's a huge difference in the fall times. Because if you have it for if you're just standing and let it go, it may not be long enough falling. So you want to make sure it's at a considerable height, and you want to. And I just did arm's length basically, so that's how we held the experiment consistent, the height consistent, and then we just repeated that 10 times. So in the results, we repeated 10 times, 10 trials for each of the 4 parachutes, 10 times, and then we averaged the flight times, found the standard deviation in Excel, and then we took the averages of those averages, and then we have the equation. So it was basically plug and chug right there, and it was also finding the main effect, and the interaction was easy since we had an equation. We just plug the equation in Excel, basically plug and chug, and then so it's basically plug and chug, right? For K1, the grand average, which is for the grand average in the data analysis table, and then we have 1/2 of the main effects, which are in the factor and level analysis table, and then the 1/2 of the interaction, where you get that number in the factor and level analysis table. So it's pretty straightforward. And for the verification experiment, so we wanted to test for 1.8 seconds. So what would give us a duration of 1.8 seconds? So what radius will we have to have? What weight of the payload would we have to have to get a duration of 1.8 seconds? So we subtracted 1.3 by 1.8, and they gave us 0.49 seconds. So just basically simplifying. And then we just solve for XA, so that when we get to getting to the tables, which is hard to explain. So what we did here is we made a scale. So from -1 to 1. And then what I did was I went for B, I did 11 to 24. So the AA battery weighs 24 grams, and then the AAA battery weighs 11 grams. And what I did was I did 24 minus 11, and then that gave the the weight in between there, and then I believe I divided it by 20 spaces. So you have increments of 0.1 all the way from -1 to 1. There was 20 spaces, and then I added from the last one. So 11 for 11 to 11.7, how I did that was I did 24 minus 11 divided by 20 plus 11, and that gave us 11.7. To get 12.3, we did 24 minus 11 divided by 20 plus 11.7 equals 12.3. Oh, and for XA, we just plug in the equation we got from the last slide, and that takes into account for XB because we already have value for XB, and then we get our XA values, and then we just use another equation to transfer our XA values into the A value. And so what we have is for the A value, which is the radius? Yes, the radius. So our radius, we have a domain of, it was 9 centimeters to 13 centimeters. You see it goes over 13 centimeters, so we can't include those. So what we have is just highlighted in yellow what we can use. So 12.5 centimeters to 13 centimeters in column A. What we chose next for the verification experiment, we just chose the last one, which was 13 centimeters for the radius and 13 grams, because we already had a 13 centimeter parachute, so why not just use it again. And for the battery, I just took a AAA battery and just wrapped it in duct tape until it was 13 grams, which was really easy to do. And then we just dropped it again at a third. So, and that actually happened to be 1.84 seconds, so 0.04 seconds off, and that was a 2.2% error. And you calculate that by multiplying 100 by 1.84 minus 1.8. So your actual drop height minus your expected drop height divided by your expected drop height. And then for our test conclusion, which is even without the test you could know what it would be, because with a larger parachute you have more surface area, so you know you're going to go slower in the air.
So that's what actually happened.
You have the battery, so the heavier the battery, or the heavier the person in the sky, you're going to fall faster. In our test conclusion, we had the larger parachute and the smaller battery have the longest duration in the sky. For recommendations for other research, we would test inside, because the day we were testing it was windy, and that could have extended the duration the parachute was in the sky. And we would also we could somehow drop the parachute the same way every time. What happened was the parachute got knotted every time we dropped it, so we somehow try to unknot it, but it would get even worse when we try to unknot it. It would get even more knotted, and so maybe tying it a different way would help make it easier dropping it the same way every time. And other factors that you could test is the length of the string, so making the strings longer, and different shapes of the parachute. So if you had more realistically it's like a banana shaped parachute that actual parachuters use, or maybe even square parachute, you can even just do shapes, square, triangle, and a circle, and that's basically it. Just shapes, square, triangle, and a circle, and that's basically it.